What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews, exclusively here, as always, on the Casa D18 Studios channel. I, of course, am your host, the Renegade JJ Williams, and today I'm going to be discussing from the year 2000, Ready to Rumble, starring David Arquette, Scott Caan, Oliver Platt, Joe Pantoliano, Rose McGowan, and Martin Landau, and featuring WCW wrestlers Goldberg, Diamond Dallas Page, Sid Vicious, the Nitro Girls, and so many others, including, yes, in his premiere film role prior to becoming a WWE superstar, prior to challenging Kurt Angle because of ruthless aggression, prior to becoming the Doctor of Thugonomics, the leader of the Chain Gang, a brief, blink and you may miss him cameo by none other than John Cena. What's up, everybody? Thank you for joining me here today, as always, for another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews. And today's is just a fun one, man. There is so much WCW talent in this film, not to mention, as I just said, the premiere debut media appearance for John Cena. And we even had, by the time the film was released, a WWF contracted wrestler in this film, as Perry Saturn had jumped to WWF in January with the rest of the Radicals after completing this film as a WCW talent. Our film opens with our main characters, Sean and Gordy, outside of a convenience store, and they're talking to some kids about their favorite wrestler, Jimmy King. And when Gordy goes inside to refill his drink, he has a fantasy about battling the cashier. Macho Man appears, as does Gorgeous George. Macho getting the hot tag from the convenience store clerk, because he was a heel at the time. Jimmy King coming to the aid of Gordy. The good guys win, beating up the cashier. And, I mean, this convenience store clerk is just a tool. He's constantly razzing and harassing Gordy and Sean. While Gordy's inside, his dad shows up. His dad's the local sheriff. And he begins harassing and frisking Sean. He wants Gordy to follow in his footsteps and be a police officer. But Gordy has wrestling dreams. The next day, Sean and Gordy go to work as normal, and they work for a sewage company, which one of the only things that Sean's dad left for him was this sewage company and the truck. They clean porta potties and whatnot. And after their shift, they make their drive from their hometown of Lusk, Wyoming to Cheyenne for WCW Monday Night Nitro. They're going to watch their hero, Jimmy Caan, defend the WCW Championship against none other than the master of the Diamond Cutter, Diamond Dallas Page. Not even a pay-per-view. However, this evening has dark clouds overhead. WCW promoter Titus Sinclair orchestrates the biggest screw job this side of Montreal, Quebec, Canada, as Jimmy Caan is cheated out of his title thanks to Sinclair, DDP, and DDP's goons. Now, on the drive home, Sean ends up crashing the septic truck, spilling sewage all over the highway. And in a fit of, isn't it ironic, the sewage truck ends up getting crashed into by a big rig that's carrying toilet paper. Now, Gordy believes this is a sign. He believes that this happened for a reason, and the two friends decide to set out, find Jimmy Caan, and make things right. They end up meeting another fan, and that fan is able to go online, and he tracks down Jimmy Caan's address on the internet. They attempt to go to his house, but instead of finding Jimmy, they find his wife, Eugenia. Eugenia and Jimmy have been estranged for a while, but they're still married. They also find Jimmy and Eugenia's son, Frankie. They then go to Jimmy's parents' house, and they find out there that his parents had loaned him their mobile home, and they've never gotten it back. So they look into that online, find out that he had received a ticket, and it has an address. Once again, Sean and Gordy go to this address, and this time they find Caan, dressed in a wig and a women's dress, of all things. They get overly excited. They begin marking out, as most fans would do, meeting their favorite wrestlers. And they begin to talk to Caan for a little bit, and he tells them that he's given up on wrestling as a result of the screw job. He just doesn't want any more part of it. Sean and Gordy, being diehard Caan fans and marks, they begin to taunt Caan, and it gets under his skin a little bit. Caan sets up and he attacks them with his finisher, the Crown, jumping off of his couch and conking them on the head. And with a little bit of fire and passion back in his soul, Caan agrees to join them the next day because he wants one good shot at Titus Sinclair. The trio end up heading to New York for the next Nitro taping. They hide Caan in a porta potty, and they tell him not to come out until they give the signal. Well, in the meantime, Gordy ends up meeting one of the Nitro Girls, Sasha, and Sasha is his favorite Nitro Girl. But when DDP begins to mock Caan on the live episode of Nitro, Caan just can't stand it anymore. So he comes out of the porta potty, attacks Page, gives him a crown off the top of the porta potty, pins him 1, 2, 3. Sinclair says that the belt can't change hands. It was not sanctioned. However, I will give you one match, one rematch. You win, you get the belt and $1 million. But if you lose, you can never wrestle again. Now, Sasha is impressed by Gordy. Both of them come from Wyoming. So they begin flirting, and Sasha invites him to have a date with her. Originally, they're going to go out, but she decides, let's stay in and have dinner inside at her apartment. And they begin talking and chatting a little bit. And when Sasha tries to initiate sex, Gordy, being a dim-witted fan, sees her breasts and hollers out for an object. And then the two begin to wrestle around the bed, eventually having sex. The next day, Sean, Gordy, and the King set out to see Sal Bandini. And Sal Bandini is a retired wrestler, much in the vein of Lou Thesz and Stu Hart. Those are probably the two biggest influences on that character. Sal agrees to become the King's trainer and get him back into shape for his big pay-per-view fight against Paige. The trio head to a local gym where they find Goldberg, who at one point partnered with King. But there was tension between the two, King being unreliable, showing up late for work, coming to work drunk. He puked on Goldberg during a match. Goldberg has just had enough with King's shenanigans. But they try to get Goldberg to help King in the upcoming match. Goldberg declines, says he works alone. And that is where that image comes from, that scene of John Cena there getting onto the weight machine. You can see Jimmy King talking to Goldberg. You see the back of Goldberg's head there. That evening, Saturn and Sid break into Sal's place, attack him, and hospitalize him. Although Sal does dish out some punishment of his own to Saturn and Sid. At the hospital, Gordy overhears Sasha on the phone talking to Sinclair. And he realizes that she's been playing him the whole time, that she's just been being nice to him, dating him, so that she can get information for Sinclair. She never liked him. So he breaks up with her, and the trio decide to get back to their roots. But first, King has something he has to do. He goes to see Eugenia, and he apologizes to her. Not being around, he promises to make it right to her. And after a couple of kicks to the groin from her as a result of the way that she's been treated, the two make up a little bit. He sees his son, realizes how jacked his teeth are, and when he promises Eugenia that he's going to make him better, he also promises to get the boy a really good dentist, get those teeth taken care of. The trio return to Wyoming, and they're going to try and gather a posse of individuals for King to help combat Paige's goons. Well, Gordy's dad steps in almost as soon as they hit the county line and takes Gordy with him. He's going to force him to take the officer's exam, become a police officer. He tells his son that his dreams are stupid, and Gordy just goes along with it because at this point, he's tired of fighting his dad. However, at the big send-off party, Gordy shows up, embraces King, and wishes him luck. Also at the send-off party, Sean gets together with one of the girls at the local restaurant who he's kind of brushed off in the past because he wanted the cuter girl that worked there. But after realizing that the other girl, who's just as pretty, liked him for him. The two of them have sex in the mobile home before taking back off to Vegas for the big fight. Now, on the night of the match, Sinclair reveals that the match is going to be inside a triple cage. Early on in the match, Juventud Guerrera and another masked man come in and attack Caan on Page's behalf. And it's revealed that the mystery masked man is none other than Frankie, Jimmy Caan's son. With those two men out of the way, Sinclair orders for Page's goons to come down to the ring. But the odds even up somewhat when Goldberg, Kidman, Booker, and Disco Inferno all come out to help Jimmy Caan. As the melee breaks out in the ring, Gordy comes in on his police motorcycle, complete in his trooper uniform, crashes through the cage, and now he's there to help Caan as well. Page and Caan reach the top of the cage, and Page tosses Caan off all the way down to the roof of the first cage. And out of nowhere, Sting swings in, knocks Page off, and now he's back on the roof of the first cage as well. Both men struggle back up to the top. Caan ultimately wins the match after knocking Page off through the cages to where he finally lands on the ring mat below. Caan raises the WCW Championship with pride, and Sinclair gets beaten up by Shawn and Gordy. Goldberg asks him if he'll team with him and make a run at the WCW Tag Team titles, but Caan declares that Gordy is going to be his partner and Shawn their manager. Our epilogue takes place outside the same convenience store where our movie began, and we see Goldberg throw the clerk through the glass door because of all the times that he had been mean to Shawn, Gordy, and the kids because of their admiration of pro wrestling. Shawn tells the kids that, dreams do come true, as him, Gordy, and Goldberg hop into a Hummer and ride off. Nitro Girl Shay driving, and the others in the back, which has been tricked into a hot tub with a fully recovered Sal Bandini in it with the other girls. Like I said, this film has a laundry list of WCW talent. Some of them I already named off: Randy Savage, Gorgeous George, Juventud Guerrera, Kidman, Booker, Goldberg, DDP, Sid, Saturn, Sting. But then you also had Rey Mysterio Jr., unmasked Rey Mysterio at that, Mean Gene Okerlund, Bam Bam Bigelow, Mike Tenay and Tony Schiavone at ringside calling the action, Caan, Kurt Hennig, Van Hammer, like I said, the Nitro Girls, Che, Fire, Spice, Storm, a.k.a. Charmel, Booker T's wife, and Tigress. And then the stunts for Oliver Platt, Jimmy Caan, were performed by Chris Kanyon. And the stunts for David Arquette's Gordy were performed by Shane Helms. So you got all that talent in this film. A lot of people criticize this film for being cheesy, corny. In my personal opinion, this film is a really, really fun romp through WCW at the time. And what if WCW had been able to survive after this, They closed their doors less than a year after this film was released. And it's just a shame that happened. You know, wrestling has not been the same since Vince McMahon and the WWF bought WCW. I don't care how many other promotions sprout up, you know, NWA, TNA, Impact, whatever you want to call it, AEW, the rise of Ring of Honor. All these other companies have come, but nothing will duplicate what we had there during the Monday Night Wars. As far as my rating for this film, maybe I'm too generous. Like I said, I adore this film. I'm giving this film 4.5 out of 5 stars. The only thing that I could say is that I wish that some of the talent in the movie had a bigger part. I would have liked to have seen more from Kurt Hennig. I would have liked to have seen more from Sting, from Macho Man, from Booker. I get the focus was Jimmy Keane, Titus Sinclair, Page, Goldberg. Get it. Just would have liked to have seen a little bit more of some of the other guys. Let's not forget to get out there on social media. Get those hashtags trending. Hashtag Casa D18 Studios. Hashtag Renegades Reviews. Hashtag Renegade Returns. And of course, the ever popular hashtag Shenanigans. We interrupt this episode of Renegades Reviews for an important announcement about
merchandising.
Merchandising? What's that?
Merchandising. Come, I'll show you. Merchandising, where the real money's made.
Make sure you go over to teespring.com/stores/Jeff Meacham Network for all the t-shirts you see here from the West Coast professor, Jeff Meacham himself. You can get shirts for the Jeff Meacham Network, Talk Wrestling, as well as the red and gold Meachamania shirts. And while you're there, don't forget to get your shirts of the Casa D18 Studios Brotherhood, the Dads on Wrestling shirt, the Renegade JJ Williams, Statboy Sports Bar, and the hashtag StatBoyApproved shirt. Make sure you go over to teespring.com/stores/Jeff Meacham Network and score your shirts today. Don't forget to do what that commercial just told you. Go to teespring.com/stores/Jeff Meacham Network. Get your official merchandise of the Jeff Meacham Network, your logo tees, Talk Wrestling, Meachamania. Get your official merchandise of the Casa D18 Studios Brotherhood, your Renegade JJ Williams shirt, Dad's Not Always on Wrestling, Statboy Sports Bar, and so much more. Tomorrow, right here on the Casa D18 Studios channel, when I will be back with another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews. Make sure you join me as I tackle the final film this month, starring Stone Cold Steve Austin, Tactical Force. You're not going to want to miss that one with the Texas Rattlesnake. So thank you for tuning in and joining me here, as always, on another episode of Renegades Reviews. Make sure you leave your thoughts in the comment box below, and maybe I'll read it on Tuesday's Renegade Recap when I touch on everything that I've been doing this past month and give you a little taste of what's to come beginning April 1st. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate you guys, and I will see you all next time.